Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collider Cast. I don't know which episode number it is because we've no longer got it on the show notes.
I believe it's 128, but it's a fair point. We've just identified the major flaw in our new plan. Off to a solid start there, chaps. Well done. Good grief. Wow. That's amazing.
It's episode 128, right? Should we...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Collider Cast, episode 128. I'm Steve Tudor.
I'm Andy Lewis.
I'm Sid Gill. And I'm Rory Summers. So, boys, have you seen it yet?
Seen what?
Seen what?
What? Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, that?
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
No
Honor Among Thieves, you mean?
Yeah. No Honor Among Thieves.
Movie?
No, yeah.
Sorry, I said that as one syllable, didn't I? Yeah.
Yes, very impressive. Yes, I went to see it last night.
Did you?
Yes, I did. It was my board game night was not on last night, which is normally a Monday. So I figure I'll take myself off to the cinema and do some research for the podcast, because no doubt you guys have clearly seen it already.
Maybe, yes.
Might have done. Good.
So was it 2 weeks ago?
Yes, 2 weeks ago, mate. We were at day after opening, I think, wasn't it? It was pretty close to opening.
Yeah, pretty close to opening, yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Alora and I went to see it a week ago today.
Brilliant. Okay.
That's why this podcast is a week late.
Yes.
We went to a very fancy
fault.
cinema.
We did. Sid was very impressed.
Where did you go?
They called him Sir without adding "you're making a scene."
Wow.
Exactly. They didn't think I was there to fix the fridge.
Where did you go?
Did you get the one in Stratford?
Yeah, I went to the Everyman in Stratford
yeah.
So
we went to the Everyman in Birmingham.
Yes, table service, tasty burger.
Yes.
A very well-heeled clientele.
Massive Kleiner jar full of ice cream in my case.
Oh, see, I just went to the View in Leamington, but I did get a free upgrade into the Premier seats. And by free upgrade, I mean I just went and sat in the Premier seats and no one did anything about it.
We're such a rebel. I'm not sure I could cope with that kind of thing.
I have a distinct lack of scruples, Sid. You should learn this about me.
Nice. Which is right ironic when you play a paladin, isn't it?
Yes. Really.
Well, ours was fun because it was almost deserted because we went on a Tuesday because there's no bugger around. So obviously we've got pre-designated, well, I say seats, couch. We have a pre-designated couch. And we walked in. There were literally two people sat down already when we walked in, and our seats were right next to them, and totally empty. So anyway, just walked up.
Brilliant.
Totally, right, we're not talking. You told us, sit down next to you. All right, mate, how you doing?
Did you do the right thing, though? When the film started, it remained empty. Did you move?
No.
God, you're all such rule followers. What is wrong with you lot? It's like you're obsessed with board games or something.
Because it was right in the middle of the cinema, mate. It was ideal viewing position.
Optimal
Did they
seating.
move?
Yeah.
No, they didn't. But other people did come in. I mean, it was still empty. There was nobody in front of us. But it was ideal. It was right in the middle of the screen. I wasn't looking too far up. I wasn't looking too far down because I chose those seats deliberately for optimal viewing pleasure.
That I'm not at all surprised about.
See?
But anyway, cinemas aside, right? Because when I asked you, have you seen it? I didn't think we'd spend this long discussing the cinemas.
Well,
right?
we answered your question. Have you seen it? Yes.
Okay,
Let's move on.
Follow-up question. What did you think about it? I think of it, rather.
I really enjoyed it.
I thought it was a very good film.
I thought it did exactly what I was expecting of it. That kind of Guardians of the Galaxy-esque fantasy romp in Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, I was 100% whelmed by this film.
Whelmed.
I was not overwhelmed. I was not underwhelmed. Exactly whelmed.
I don't think it could have been much better with what they did, if that made sense.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it couldn't have been a better film. There's always room for improvement in most films, with the possible exception of Aliens. But there's I think that what they did with the story, with the setting, making enough odd nods to D&D the game without it being bogged down in gobbledygook, and also at the same time with not getting too bogged down into things like, oh, well, he couldn't have done that because he's not a level 5 character kind of thing. You know,
There is plenty of that on the internet, though.
well, yeah, I know, but yeah.
Or actually,
I thought it did a very good job with it, and I felt it was very surreal because we ran the Storm King's Thunder campaign, which basically has you gallivanting all over the Sword Coast. And so when they started visiting places that we have visited in the campaign previously, that felt odd. Now, doing it the opposite way around is not unusual. Like, we played the Alien RPG, so we played the Hadley's Hope thing. So, you know, you go to Hadley's Hope knowing what Hadley's Hope looks like. But this felt weird, having already played an RPG session in somewhere that then was on the big screen. And it just, yeah, there was something very surreal about it in that regard. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and hopefully it's done well enough to do a second one, because I think there's a lot of there's potential there.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed it. It was, like I say, it was very Marvel-esque, exactly where I thought it was going to be. I think personally, I would like to have seen a little bit more of a serious, more of a Lord of the Rings Hobbit tonally. For me personally, is what I would have wanted from a Dungeons and Dragons movie. But as soon as the writers were announced, let alone the director or the cast, I knew that's what I was going to get. So, you know, for the last 3 years, you know, you look at the writers and what they've done previously, you go, that's exactly what I was expecting. And it delivered. And, you know, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I saw it at the cinema. I'll probably take the little man to go see it. I'm not going to be jumping out of my seat to go get the, you know, extended Blu-ray edition with all the special features to watch it with all the commentary and behind the scenes stuff. But it did well. Which is, by the way, that's the normal thing I do with a film that I love. I go and watch absolutely everything associated with it. But it was good. It was exactly good.
Well, we took the little man. He loved it.
Yeah?
He enjoyed it, yeah. Yeah, there was... I think it was a very clever film, in my opinion, because it appealed to people that lived and breathed the lore, like us lot. It appealed to the wife, who didn't have a Scooby-Doo, but Chris Pine was in it, so she was happy. And it appealed to the boy because there was people boshing each other on the head with swords and just generally having a bit of fun.
They did a really good job of keeping the violence down.
I think they pitched it right. I think they got it spot on. Actually, in that line of things.
Jai's 6, isn't he?
6, yeah.
6, 7 this year, same as Logan. I think it's perfect for that age and up. Marley is only 4, so I think she's a bit too young. She just wouldn't sit through a 2-hour-long movie, unless it has lots of unicorns in anyway.
And the best bit for me was he seemed to understand it.
Yeah,
like the little mini, almost little scenarios, little set pieces were just long enough for him not to get too confused before they switched to the next one.
Yeah.
So I thought it was, I thought it was really well
good.
done. I really enjoyed it. I didn't begrunge. Is that a word? Begrunge. Begrumble. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Is begrudge. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. I didn't begrudge the amount of money that I spent to watch it at all, which I quite often do with the cinema these days. But with this one, I felt it was. I thought it was worth it. Definitely worth watching.
Better shout.
Now, I can imagine Andy hated it because Andy likes one film that comes out every 10 years or so, and everything else is just crap, in his opinion.
You're not wrong, Mr. Tudor. Ordinarily, I thought it was fucking excellent.
Really?
Well, there we go then.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this must be the point in the cycle. Mark this date.
Mark this date. 10 years' time.
10 years' time
No
will be
good
the next
films until 2033. Oh, that's depressing.
I cannot disagree with anything you all said. You've covered everything I want to say as well, which is why I've remained quiet. Because
doesn't normally stop you.
True, but I thought in this case I will give it the kudos it deserves, because I genuinely think, like you guys have said, I really think it was just pitched perfect. It was enjoyed. Alora really enjoyed it, and she knows nothing about D&D. She really enjoyed it and followed it. Obviously, I did. There were 2 things in it during I went, oh, we can't do that in the rules, but I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say anything. I just thought it doesn't matter. It's fun, and I thought in the interest of keeping the plot and the story going, and for the film, it worked. You know, I mean, you can't turn into an owlbear as a ranger. So what? It was fun. It was great, and that was the beautiful thing about it. I think it captured one of the things that I think a lot of movies miss these days: being fun.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. Look at that. If Andy's endorsing it, everybody should go and watch it.
It was bloody brilliant. It really was. It was fun. It was really fun. And I think, as you said, Steve, it gave the right number of nods. I really like the Easter egg with the people in the cage. I'm not going to say what they are for when people go and see it. But it took me a moment. I thought, it is that? Oh, that's quite cool.
I was expecting more Easter eggs.
Yeah, you said that after the film.
I was expecting a few more kind of Forgotten Realms Easter eggs. I was expecting things like, Matt Mercer and Critical Role to turn up in a cameo or something like that, or maybe have Ed Greenwood as an old man in the bar or something like that.
Matt Mercer's too busy recording his voice as Minsk for Baldur's Gate 3.
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe he'll appear as Minsk in the next one.
Maybe. That would be amazing if he did, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, I thought Hugh Grant was awesome. I'm quite liking the resurgence of Hugh Grant playing a complete bastard rather than his sort of stammering love interest in shit rom-coms. Because he was really good in The Gentleman, and he was really good in this.
He was really good in The Gentleman. Oh,
he was really good in The Gentleman.
Such a creepy...
I know, he really was. He was the kind of thing you should be on a list, mate. But I mean, it just obviously goes to show he's a good actor. But the twist was fairly obvious, but it worked. There was only one bit that grated with me, and it felt a little bit contrived. Was the bit where the bridge fell over and they still got across.
Yeah, but I loved that bit actually, because that is exactly what happens in an adventure. You screw it up, and then you got to replan it and rework it.
It is, but it felt a bit too quick and a bit too convenient. Is all. It worked, and it was fine, and, you get on with it, and it was that one little, okay, it was a little bit too easy for them, but other than that, it was great, and it worked, and it was fun, and the characters learned something, and John's going to get a big head because the bard was the main hero, and that's just unacceptable.
I actually thought it was a very good choice, because it's a very engaging hero. You needed a charismatic lead, and who else could you pick?
Chris Pine was very good.
Exactly.
In fact, I think all the characters were very, very well played.
I think they cast it very well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Michelle Rodriguez was excellent as the Barbarianess.
Yes, Jai's favourite character.
Yep. No, she was excellent. Chris Pine was good. The Tiefling, brilliant. Kudos. Always got to have a Tiefling in your party. Or not, as the case may be. And yeah, Simon the Sorcerer. I'm not sure if that was deliberate or not. For those of us of a certain age, you remember that RPG back in the day, or the adventure game back in the day.
I can't decide either, because there was definitely a few nods that direction. Oh, the baddies were excellent. I loved the baddies.
Yes, the rendition and the appearance of the puppet master, the puppet master, was excellent and quite off-putting. I got really excited right near the start when it went over the map and it's the spine of the world and the Neverwinter Mountains. I was like, yes, this is cool. They got the map. So yeah, I genuinely think it's definitely worth watching if you're even remotely into D&D. Even if you're not,
I think it's just a very good film. Yeah,
it is. It's a good, fun 2-hour film. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's the right length. It's really good. Yeah. Genuinely, really good film. So to answer your question, Rory, yes, we've seen it.
Brilliant. All right. Yeah, good. Okay, so we've covered the screens, the seats, and the movie. Don't think we need to go
into ice cream.
And the ice cream. We don't need to go into the audio quality. So shall we talk about some board games, gents?
Well, you lot can. I've been remiss. I haven't played anything.
That's all right, because Steve did that last time.
So what games has everyone else been playing then?
Well,
Andy's played a lot.
I've played quite a lot, yes, as is my wont. Well, most recently, Rory came over a couple of days ago, and we had an epic gaming day of about 11 hours. 11 hours of gaming on a Sunday.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, it's what happens when you don't have responsibilities, guys.
Or you flagrantly ignore them. One of the two.
I got no children to run home to on a Sunday, no dogs to go walk, no one waiting for me. I'm just like, yeah, hey,
great.
I'll leave when you guys tell me to.
We started, and this came as a bit of a shock, actually. Rather, its length did.
Right. We're still talking about board games.
We are, yes. We're not talking about 11. No, let's not go down that rabbit hole. We're talking about Autobahn from Alleycat Games. So Rory was quite keen on showing me this one. Now, I've actually had Autobahn since its Kickstarter turned up, but I haven't even bothered learning the rules. So it was quite convenient. Rory turned up and taught it me. And Laura.
Yeah.
We had a 3-player of Autobahn. And having talked to Cesar, it's Alleycat's heaviest game to date, or at least it was when they made it.
Yeah.
And I can see why.
There's a lot going on in this game. There is a lot, and it feels like there's a lot going on. It doesn't feel like it's over engineered or overworked. It doesn't feel like any of the mechanics that are in there that are thrown in are kind of superfluous. It's not a kind of throw it and stick it to the wall, a bit like a Tilitum is the way it sounded to me when you guys talked about that. Everything in there makes sense, but there is a lot of it, and you're really aware of how much there is, because you've got like a route network building thing going on. You've got a pick up and deliver. You've got a hand management and a bit of kind of like a mini deck builder thing going on. You've got an area control thing as well. All of this just in one game, and you feel it. You feel all of it.
Yeah, the game's set over 3. I'm going to say eras, periods. Starting in the 70s, I think it is, or the 60s, 50s. Anyway, sometime in the middle of the 20th century, and each period is about 20 to 25 years long. But it doesn't.
I think
really
it starts
matter.
post-war. I think it's
there
post-war.
you go.
Yeah.
So the 50s to the 70s, the 70s to the 90s, and then the 90s to the present day, roughly. And the idea is, in each period, you are to build some roads, the Autobahns in Germany. The board is actually split into West Germany and East Germany. East Germany is not available until the third part of the game, because obviously the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1991, which is the start of the third period. And you are basically building the motorways in Germany. And the idea is that you can contribute to that by building sections of road between towns, which improves the towns as you build connections to them. You can build service stations, which don't improve the town, but they do get you stuff if people drive trucks, which form the goods network, which gets you points and gets you abilities and gets you additional stuff by delivering goods to certain sort of towns in and around Europe, so to like France and Amsterdam and the northern towns in France and Germany, which get you abilities or points or money or something.
It gives you the
like
bonus
that.
tiles, doesn't it? Plus whatever on your delivery.
Yes.
Yeah, and then what else you've also got your upgrades. You can upgrade from a single carriageway to a dual carriageway. You can load your truck, and you can unlock one of your technologies. Everybody's player board is your own unique technology tree, and although they're all identical, how you go about unlocking them is completely within your remit. You use a card to get a key. You use that key to unlock something, and that kind of gives you a bit of a thread about how you're going to play this game.
Yes. And then the final part of all that, which is why you need to unlock things, is that when you do eventually contribute basically to building roads, you will put a man in one of the committee office in the committee office, basically.
I think it's called the construction office. And then
construction office. There you go.
Then you've got the departments, which are the 3 offices, and this is where the area control comes in, which I actually think is, having thought about this over the last kind of like 48 hours since we played it, Andy, I feel this is actually the main part of the game. The route building, the service stations, all of that. It's almost like that is the user interface to put your pieces on this area control bit, and that area control bit is the game. That is the center of the game.
It's certainly the bit that scores you the points to start with, at least, yes.
Right, but it scores you the points and it earns you the money, and you need the money to be able to put more stuff on the UI side of the board, is the way I'm thinking about it now.
I suppose that's not unreasonable, yes. So in building motorways, you put people in this office, and then by doing additional stuff, you can promote people from this sort of office into the lobby of the sort of corporate offices, and then from the lobby to the corporate offices into like the main offices of this sort of bigger building. And the higher up these offices you get, the bigger the multiplier of points, which is in it kind of the shape of these offices, like a 3x3 grid, maps onto your player board. So if you've unlocked bits of the player board, you can move people into those corresponding offices, essentially. So until you've unlocked it, you can't promote someone into that office, as it were. And the higher up the tree, the corporate tree you get, the more points you're going to get at the end of the game. So, like, you could unlock all of your build all your service stations. You'll get 1, 2, or 3 points per service station, for example, depending on how
high you've got someone in the service station administration office.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you can do what Alora did, build all the motorways and get all the bonus tiles, and then just promote the shit out of all of your people, stick everybody in the top office, and score twice as many points as Rory and I combined.
Yeah.
You've been allured again.
We have been. It's a consistent theme. But, so, we played Autobahn, and as you may have got the hint on if you were listening closely at the start of this review, Autobahn is not a short game.
No. I made a point, because I got to Andy and Alora's a little before 10, set the game up. Andy hadn't, we got it all out on the table. I started teaching at 10 o'clock. The teach took about half an hour. I remember looking at my watch, right, how long is this first stage going to be? And the first era took half an hour. And then the second era took an hour and 15 minutes. And then the third era took an hour and a half. And then we had to clear it all away. And the clear down, because there's so many bits, the clear down takes a good 15 minutes as well. The game just, it escalates. And it escalates in your thinking time, in the complexity. And it's one of those, it's really weird. Normally, like, when it's not my turn, I'll be thinking about my turn while you three take your turn. And when it comes back to me, I've got a good idea of what I'm doing. And even though in Autobahn, the board state isn't going to change terribly much between my turn and my turn again, I'm still thinking about my turn because there is so much that I can do.
Yeah. The number of moving parts in this game, it's like sort of it's like Turksy on crack. Because, one thing can kick off another thing, but you can have multiple threads kicking off multiple things. That's the thing about Autobahn. The game itself, the rules aren't that heavy.
They're not.
But,
You've got six cards in 6 different colours for the first 2 eras, right? Black, white, purple, whatever, right? You've got 6 of them. And you've got 5 actions. Your turn is you're going to pick a card and put it on an action. So if you put your orange card on the orange build a road, you're going to build a road on the orange motorway. If you put your white card on the, advance, upgrade the road, you're going to upgrade one piece of the white motorway to a dual carriageway. That fundamentally is it. But the problem with it is I say, like, let's say you're going to play a white card to build a service station, right? So you play your card, you build your service station, but because you've unlocked your technologies, you're going to upgrade, you're going to advance on the deployment track, and then you take a bonus because you've built your service station, so you're going to get the right bonus there. And then as it happens, you've moved your development track to a point where you can now buy a new card. So I'm going to sack off my old green card and buy a new green card. That's after I've taken a little while to look at the cards and assess them. But now,
then you've got a bonus on the card you've played, which allows you to move along the track again. So you can promote a guy into the office, which will get you another bonus because you promoted somebody.
Yeah, my card allows me to then build a road. So I build a road that allows me to pick up a bonus tile. So then I've got my bonus tile. Now I'm going to play the bonus tile I picked up before that allows me to move my truck. Then it's the end of my turn. I'm now going to move my truck, and because I've moved my truck, I've now delivered machine parts to Paris. But in doing so, I've gone past your service station, so now you get the bonus of your service station. And over at Paris, I'm going to pick up the last of the token there. Then I'm going to move my development token, not my delivery token thing, to say I've done all of that. That's one turn. And that's not that's a busy turn. That's quite a successful turn. But for me, I'll go, that's if I play that one card. What if I play my green card, or my purple card, or my black card? What would I be able to achieve if I did any one of those other actions using any one of the other cards? And it is just...
We've stunned them into silence, Rory.
I can't decide if you guys liked it or not, because you said some interesting. You said things, the problem with it, but then equally you're exuding a kind of a joy almost for it as well. So I don't know where you guys are. So you're going to have to help me out here.
See, we don't know either because we talked about this after the game, and
yeah,
it's well made. it's well put together. Nothing, as Rory says, it's not superfluous, but it's a good game. But it kind of feels like work.
Yeah, that's very similar to what I said about Woodcraft, and I think that analogy is correct. And I think it works there as well. I think for me, a good Euro game is where you've got synergy. I'm going to do this one action, and it's going to kick off these other two things, and then I'm going to get a bonus, and that's it, right? And and that's a good Euro game is where you're going to have that synergy. Autobahn has a lot of synergy, and it's trying to work out which one of these four things. And all of the synergy, all of the bonuses, all of the lateral movements from doing that one action, which one is the best one to take? And that is really hard. For me, it's really hard. My brain does not work like that. I enjoy Autobahn. I am absolutely terrible at Autobahn. I have been crushed, absolutely crushed, every time I played this. I think, as Andy said, if you added my score and Andy's score together, we still would not have beaten Allura. But my score was half of what Andy's score was, and that was my personal best. Right? I am absolutely rubbish. It just doesn't sit well with me, but I still like the game. But it does feel like work.
Now, I mean, talking about it afterwards, we spent about 4 hours, roughly, all told, from start of teach to finish off game and pack it down. I would prefer to play Weather Machine or On Mars, which I can do in less time, than play Autobahn. Now, that's not to say Autobahn is bad. I would happily play it again. I own it. I would like to play it again. But On Mars and on Weather Machine are very complicated games, but they are done in less time. Now, work that out. I would say Autobahn is good, but very, very faffy. Whereas Weather Machine and On Mars are a lot tighter. They're complicated but tight, whereas Autobahn is a bit flappy.
But again, you say flappy and you say faffy, but none of that faff feels superfluous. None of that faff feels unnecessary. Everything there makes sense. Every token has a purpose.
Question then, is it analysis paralysis by the players that's burning the time? Because you're not willing to just make a choice. Whereas in the other games you've described, you have fewer choice, therefore you will take the more.
I think that's
it's
a good
more
point.
obvious to see the optimal route through the game.
Yeah.
Whereas here you've got so many different permutations of potentially optimal.
Yeah.
That you spend your period between turns trying to work out if that's tiny bit better than that, or is that a little bit better than the other one?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
That's exactly it. Sid. I say it's not the analysis paralysis. It's not that I'm like stuck thinking about it. It's just it takes so long to think about it because there's so many things, and this is going to appeal to a certain type of gamer, to a certain type of person that really likes to go, these are all of my options. These are all my fantastic options. I need to find the optimal route from this. And if you are a gamer on a group, but ideally you want a group of the same type of people that want to sit down and play this, and you will really, really enjoy that. If on the other, I think John might actually enjoy this in that he wants to find the optimal route, and he really likes to. But I personally do not have the patience to sit and wait for three other people to go through all of that. There were points when playing that game, I've got a good idea of what's a good thing to do, and I'll do it. Clearly, I need to put more thought into it because my scores represent how badly I do. But still, it's like I'm at a point. I'm just going to do this. This feels like the right thing to do.
So you said you played this before, Rory. This is not your first game of it, but Andy, this is your first game of it, was it?
I played a demo
full
of it at
game.
First full game. I played a demo of it at Expo.
So what player counts have you played this at, Rory? Because I know you played this. You said you played this more than once.
2, 3, and 4.
Right. Does the number of players change that feeling? So, like, for instance, is it a better game at 2 because there's less downtime?
I think 3 players is probably the optimum for this. At 2, I don't think there's enough of a network going on because you need that network on the board to be able to deliver your trucks, and you need to be able to do that. So you need to have part of this area controller. You need to get shunted out of the office to get that. There just isn't enough of that at 2 players for my it actually slows down that mechanic in the game when you're only at 2 players. At 3 players, I think it is optimal. At 4, I don't ever want to play this at 4 again.
Fair
But
enough.
having said, I mean, I played it at 4 at my games club a few weeks ago, and at the end of the game, one of the guys was just like, "I love this," and he got his phone out and he started looking to buy it online immediately. It really resonated with him. It was exactly the type of game he wanted, and that is. It is a really good game. It's really well designed. It's really tight. There's a lot of maintenance involved. I won't say it's flappy or faffy because I think that has derogatory connotations. There's a lot of maintenance, and if you're prepared for that maintenance and you're prepared to work through all of the potential actions and subsequent actions and bonuses to work out what is the optimal choice, then this is a really, really good game. And I think you will be very fulfilled for playing it for the 3 to 4 hours that it's going to take you. My biggest criticism, to be honest, I just don't want to teach this game again. I would happily go and play it tonight, as long as I can play it with people that already know how to play. I don't want to have to teach it because I'm just bored of doing it. I'm sick of doing it. I think we were talking about this, and this might be a conversation point for another thing. But when I teach games, I'm often the games master. So I'm tracking the victory points and I'm making sure that you've got all the bonuses that you've done and stuff like that. And doing that for this game is exhausting.
Yeah,
and look, playing with Andy and Laura, you picked up the rules. By the time we were in the second age, I didn't have to do it anymore. But there were those, Andy, don't forget, you've got to give me a worker to put it in the office. Don't forget this. Don't forget you've got that bonus.
Oh yeah, we've got to flip over the the city. Oh no, we can't do it yet because that motor is already upgraded. Oh no, we have to flip that back again. We did that a couple of times.
Yeah, and then playing with Andy and Laura, who were experienced gamers, you got those rules, and it was fine after that first half hour. I go right. I don't have to keep an eye on your board anymore to make sure you're playing correctly or you're missing something. But in other games, I'm playing 4 different players. I've got to keep such a careful eye to make sure that you don't do something wrong or you accidentally cheat or anything like that. And it's just a nightmare.
It was good, but a lot longer than you expect it to be.
It was good exactly as long as I expected it to be, having played it previously.
I genuinely thought we'd be done in about 2 hours based on Alley Cat's sort of previous offerings. They are sort of good, solid, reliable middleweight games. This was rules-wise middleweight, I would say, but Jesus, no, it's a lot longer than their other offerings. So enjoyable. I would quite like to play it again, but again, I think don't play it with beginner gamers because there's just too much maintenance, as Rory says. We miss stuff, and I'm going to say pro gamers, but as you say, we're experienced gamers. We're used to a bit of fannying around in games and tracking of stuff, but Jesus, there's an order of magnitude in this one because you've got to make sure, your cities, your people, your tokens, your city, your oh god, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. That was Autobahn by Alley Cat Games. In another games day, I've been doing quite a few of them. I went to Mr. Tudor's house.
Indeed.
Yes.
What did you play?
Well, I played a plethora of games. To be fair, we didn't play for 11 hours and only played one game. So we played quite a few games. In fact, what was quite humorous as well, I don't know if we're going to talk about it today, but we played Pandemic Iberia at one point and we failed the first time. And Laura looked at the clock and went, "We can do this. We're going to play it again."
And she was right. Yes. And we won.
Yes. But one of the games we did play was Furnace. This is Andy's game, and I believe he played it with you as well.
Yes, I did play it. Yeah.
Which is a industrial revolution kind of engine building game. Well, bidding/engine building game. It's a game in which you will have a plethora of engine components, which will be basically Victorian-esque factories, workhouses, and that kind of thing, which usually convert one thing into another thing. Those things generally being coal, steel, oil, money, and upgrade tokens.
Yes.
And there's no logical order to these things. One card might turn like 2 coal into an oil. One card might turn 1 steel into 3 coal. One card might just generate 2 coal, that kind of thing. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit because I'm getting to the second bit. which is where the engine building happens. You will lay these cards out in front of you and you will run the engine. So you'll go down from left to right running the cards in order. But before you do this, you can put these cards in any order you want and you can swap the order of the cards between rounds. So it's all about getting this nice juicy engine built from the cards you've got to get the most money and therefore the most victory points, because money is victory points.
Mm-hmm.
Where the game gets really quite interesting here is that to get hold of these cards, you use a bidding phase.
Yes.
And it's actually one of the best bidding phases I've seen outside of QE and High Society.
Yes. I think this is the strong bit of the game. This is very clever.
So you are bidding on the cards and you've got 4 tokens to bid. I don't know if that alters with players. Is that the
You
same
can
all
have a
time,
fifth, because Rory had the fifth.
I did.
So one of the player powers, if you choose to play with them,
okay,
you
fair
get
enough.
asymmetric player powers. Rory's one gave him an extra token.
Extra 2, yeah.
So you get 4 tokens. Now, the interesting thing is, even though the aim of the game is to collect the most money, your bidding tokens are not money. They're not linked to your victory points in any way, so you're not spending victory points to get the cards.
That's CapEx against 4X. That's what it is.
Well, yeah.
You win with 4X, but you play with CapEx.
So in order to bid, you'll go around the table placing one of these 4 tokens on one of the cards in the row.
The only 4X, right, that should be talked about is the beer. And even that is purely because of the adverts.
That's
right?
true.
I don't want to talk about CapEx and 4X at home.
Anyway, right. So you go around the table bidding on these cards. Now, what is really interesting here is you've got tokens 1 to 4. So if you're the highest number token on a card, you win. No one can bid the same as you. So if you've already put your 4-piece down, no one else can put their 4 on the same card, apart from one of the character abilities. But blah 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 blah. We'll ignore that for now. The interesting thing is there's an extra thing on the cards at the top, which is a resource. And if you do not win the bid, you get that resource or that conversion, because some of them actually turn resource into another resource, equal to a number of times of the bid you've placed.
Yes.
So the maximum you can get is 3, because
You're not
you
going to
bid
lose
1 to
with the
4,
4.
and you're going to lose with 4. And as Andy says, that's the really interesting bit, because half the game here is not just trying to win the cards you want to make your engine work and score the victory points, but also to play that area of the game to get the most resources you can to plug into your engine.
Yes.
And for such a simple game, it feels unbelievably clever.
It really does. And also sometimes you think, aha, I'll play my 3 here. Someone's going to play a 4 on that. Oh.
Yeah.
or I'll play a 2. That's definitely going to get outbid. Oh. And you end up with a load of shite you don't want.
Yeah, it was a really interesting mechanic, that trying to go, I don't really want this, but I do want the bonus. But I don't just want 1. I could do with 2 multiplier of that bonus. And just hoping they go somewhere, but you're not really paying attention to what anybody else's engine is doing. So you've got no forethought. You're just going, I put my 2 here, and I'm sure for some reason, Andy or Laura will put down a 3 or a 4 on there because I'm sure they want it. But no. And you end up with this absolute dross one. It's really clever. Oh, and then you get those other times where you go, actually, Andy's already gone Billy Big Bollocks on that one. So I know I can throw my 3 down and I'm going to get loads of coal, which is exactly what I want for my engine, which means I don't need to pick up that card at all. I can ignore that one completely. Really, really clever.
Yes.
Now, in order to sell this to you, Sid, because I can see you're not sure about this.
Boys, my head's blown up. I don't know. I can't follow. I don't follow it.
It's really simple. You bid on a card. You get resources if you don't win the bid, equal to the size of the bid you've done. You then take that card and put it in your engine, and you run the engine. Done. It's really simple, and this is where I'm going to sell it to you. This feels like London, so now you've played, but it's good.
Oh,
You two. Wrong.
Wash your Martin Wallace mouth out, sunshine.
Yes. London is a good game. It's just you two are shit.
Well, me and Sid did not like London. We
didn't.
did not get on with it at all, and we both agreed on this. However, whether you like London or not, to me, this felt like what London should have done. If that makes sense. it had the right feel, but this had a way in which my brain connected with it and actually made sense. Whereas I thought London made no sense whatsoever.
What he said.
I
Actually, I can see where you're going with it. Then, actually, when you break it down with that, it's a good basis to think from.
I mean, some of it is just the abstract of the theme. It's as I said, it's Industrial Revolution. It's all stovepipe hats and bridges in Bristol and coal and iron and whatever. Yeah, and I forgot about the upgrade as well. One of the things you can do as well is that you can spend resources, which are the upgrade tokens and coal. I think it is for everyone, to flip over the card, which is usually a much better version of that piece of your engine.
Yeah,
and there's a really difficult decision at some point because it's like, well, that coal can be fed into this part of the engine, which will give me victory points, or it could be spent. And there's even some cards which allow you to spend the upgrade tokens to get more victory points.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, and so there's for such a straightforward game and such a quick game, because I think we played it in
half an hour,
45 minutes,
including the teach as well. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's really quick. It's just 4 rounds.
That's it. When you said 4 rounds, I was like, so look, you're going to be player 1, and then you're going to have 4 rounds, and then it's going to be a Laura, and we're going to have another 4 rounds, and then me, and then another 4. So it's like it's 12 rounds in total. No, it's just 4 rounds. But that doesn't sound long enough to have a game, but it was. It was. It got to it stayed on the table exactly as long as it needed to do. A 5th round would have been too much. My engine would have been too complicated. I would have been bamboozled by it. My score wouldn't have increased much more.
You only had 5 cards. I had 10.
Yeah. But shit. It stayed on the table exactly long enough, and that was it was 30 minutes. But it didn't. It is a light game, but it didn't feel like a light game. It didn't feel wishy-washy. Yeah. It was actually every choice is interesting, and the interaction of the cards that is my engine is interesting as well. But none of it takes very long. It just goes. Great game. I'm looking at getting a copy. It's definitely on my want to buy list immediately after playing it.
And the good thing is, the bit that does take the time, i.e. the running of the engine, because everyone's sort of crunching their brains, because it's simultaneous, there's effectively no downtime, because everyone's doing the same thing at the same time.
Exactly,
you're not waiting one at a time for everyone to go, oh my God, this is going to take half an hour. It doesn't, because you're all trying to sort of scream and shout and swear at the same time. It's brilliant.
That's it. And if mine does take a bit longer to run than yours, or my thinking, it's only going to be a couple of minutes. At which point you're not felt like you're doing nothing. You're watching this happen, or you're having a chat with the other person, or you're getting the next draft ready. It's really, really, really great game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very clever. Very straightforward. Really good.
Another question from me then. So, what does it look like on the table? Because you said London to me, and London was all cards, as I remember.
It is all cards.
So it's all cards as well in this case.
Yeah. It's all cards. A couple of resource tokens, so some little bits of wooden coal and little bits of wooden steel and oil barrels. And then your discs, which are your bidding chips.
Which is just circles with numbers on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got your market, which is 7 cards? Does that change depending on the player count?
It does. It's 6, 7, or 8. I think it is depending on player count. Something
it is.
Like
that. It's just 6 to 8 cards in the middle of the table. Some components. That's it.
And interestingly, you can play it with 2. Weirdly, but there's a bot, and the bot works rather well because it kind of it randomizes. Yeah, you have a die, and you roll the die, and it randomizes which thing it will bid on.
Yeah.
So you never know which one it's going to bid on. So you can't really predict, I'm going to win here. The bot's going to bid. I'm going to outthink the bot. You can't outthink the bot because the bot doesn't think.
It's just random. That's cool.
It works really, really well. So 2, 3, or 4. I would recommend 3 or 4 player count to play against humans to get the sort of full experience to swear at people when they steal your card. But it works at 2, 3, or 4.
It
really,
works
really well.
at 2 as well. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's Furnace from Arcane Wonders.
Yes, and it's about £27, 30 quid, something like that. And it feels worth it. It's the right amount of money for the amount of game you get.
Is it though? Is it? Is it?
You said as much yourself.
No, I've never, because it really is. It's just some cards that are normal. They're not tarot-sized cards. They're normal card-sized cards. And then some cubes, some, what are they? The steels. And so there's 3 different wooden components, and then some cardboard components, and then the wooden discs.
Really pretty cardboard components.
Are they though? It's just black cubes of the coal, and then the little blue. I forget what shape they are now. Like
Trapezoidal.
Trapezoidocoids. As steel, I think 30 quid is actually pushing how much this game is worth. Like, I'm thinking components, stuff in the box. 30 quid's up, I think, is a bit on the rich side.
Maybe.
I think that perhaps you're thinking like 5 years ago prices.
I may well be thinking 5 years ago prices, but Andy and I had this conversation about the price of board games when we played another game that I don't think we're going to talk about today. But
the RRP for this game is £35.
Yeah, there you go. You see?
No, I wouldn't pay £35 for this. I would. It is. I'm going to try and trade this in at the next math trade. That's how I'm aimed to get this game. I'm not paying £35 for this. It's not worth £35.
As a point of reference, Splendor, which is also some cards and some tokens, thing, is an RRP of 30 quid. So it's in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
But Splendor has plastic as opposed to wood. I'd expect. I still think I think £35 is too rich for this. I wouldn't pay more. I think £25 is reasonable. 30 at the utmost.
We paid 27.
If the first number's a 3, I'm not interested in this game.
So if you saw it in a charity shop for £3,
no,
not interested. Too much for me.
I'll give you 4 for it. I'll give you £4.
But yes, that's Furnace. We all enjoyed it. Very clever, very crunchy. Done in half an hour, 45 minutes tops. So it's slightly more than a filler game, but definitely not a long game. So one of those kind of where we've got half an hour at the end of the night kind of games.
Yeah.
Palate cleanser, you might say.
Which it was for us, along with our cake.
After Autobahn, yeah, Jesus. Yeah, that was good cake, actually.
Good
Said
cake.
you missed out there, mate. Pistachio and lime cake, very tasty.
Right. I love you guys. All right.
Washed down with a brew. It's lovely.
When I can't come right to the party, that was a bit of a kick in the stones anyway. That was on me. I accept that. That's on me. All right.
Yeah.
But then to take bottles and bottles of salt into my open wounds that I've inflicted on myself by showing me pictures of what was the immense looking cake.
It was a good cake.
It was
And
a good
then,
cake.
not only that, then I had to pick it up again once the healing has started to reopen those wounds.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, boys. I mean, poor old Steve's in the same boat as well.
No,
It's not fine. It's just not right.
Do
boys. It's
you
just
know
not
what the
right.
salt in my wound
What's
is? Right. About 9:15, Amanda goes, "You sure you don't want to go play games?"
Ouch, burn.
It's too late now.
Yeah, you'd have turned up about half an hour into Autobahn. It would have been fine.
Yeah.
Oh dear. One of the other games me and Andy played, we just mentioned it earlier, is we played a Pandemic Iberia, and I thought this had been on my shelf for a couple of months, my shelf of shame. And I looked at my Amazon purchase history, and I purchased this game in 2017.
Whoa, that's 6 years, dude.
That's almost as old as my son.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
pre-giant. That was in the heady days where I was able to have fun. I could have eaten cake.
And yeah,
pistachio
come to
lime or
game day
otherwise.
without thinking about it. Drink tea, have cake. Instead, you chose poorly.
So yeah, this has actually sat on my shelf completely unplayed for 3 years.
Wow.
So I don't think it's the longest unplayed game on my shelf.
Oh,
I think there are actually older games there.
that's a great question. Someone's now going to add to our list of questions, Steve.
Question from
What
Rory Summers.
is the longest game?
So this came out about this time. There was like a little spurt of variations on Pandemic that came out. So we had classic Pandemic, and if you don't know what that is, it is a classic. I think believe this is.
If you don't know what that is, you're listening to the wrong podcast.
No, I mean,
No,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
that's-
No, I mean, I wouldn't have known when I'd started.
I'm going to give people and say that there's a brief introduction. It's a classic board game in which you are cooperatively working together to solve a worldwide pandemic. And I got to admit, it's gone out of flavour a bit, over the last 3 years for something that happened 3 years ago. But this is a variation on that game. So the original game was modern day; it was worldwide, and you jet set around the world. This was a version which was set just in Iberia, which is basically Spain and Portugal.
Mhm.
So it's the Iberian Peninsula. Largely, the game works the same way, but a little bit remixed. So I think they released 3 versions about this time, which is Pandemic Cthulhu, Pandemic Iberia, and Pandemic Netherlands, which is the one I haven't played and didn't buy.
Is that's the hinterland? That's the hinterlands expansion for Pandemic.
Yes.
Oh, it's an expansion
Yes,
rather than standalone.
it's an expansion, yeah.
Yes.
Really good one, actually. Recommend it.
Okay. I'm thinking of it. What am I thinking of then? Oh no, maybe I'm thinking of Fall of Rome.
Fall right.
No, Rising Tide I'm thinking of. Pandemic Rising Tide,
Tide,
which
that's
came
the
out in
one.
2017. Then there was Pandemic Fall of Rome, which came out in 2018. So there's 2 I haven't played there. Anyway, so it's largely the same basic game. You'll be collecting cards each round, and you will need 5 cards of the same colour, because you're separating the coloured zones in order to research a virus. In this version, because it's a bit set in the past, you are not eradicating these viruses or curing them, you're just identifying them and identifying their causes.
Yeah.
Where the real remix here happens is, of course, you can't fly from place to place because there's no airplanes, so you can sail around the coast in the same way you use an airplane in the original Pandemic, or you can build railway lines as one of your actions, and these railway lines means you can move much quicker across the board. The other addition is you can place water tokens down, which represent that you have cleaned the water in an area. So if a pandemic cube comes out, then the water gets taken off rather than the cube coming out. The rest of the game is more or less classic Pandemic. At the end of every turn, you'll grab a couple of cards. You'll also start populating zones on the board with these virus cubes, which represent the virus growing.
The really tasty ones too back in the day. Yellow fever, cholera, all the really good ones.
They're named as well, aren't they?
Yes,
Which the original
that's
Pandemic never
nice.
did. It never gave them names. Of course, the usual things happen. So if there's 3 cubes already on a city, then it causes an outbreak. So you've got an outbreak marker, and the virus spreads to the neighbouring cities. Game ends in the same kind of ways. If you run out the player deck, you lose. If you have too many outbreaks, you lose. And if you run out of cubes because the board has covered them, you lose. As we said earlier, we played it twice because the first time we lost and the Laura was not letting us go without us beating the game. It was like, no, we can do it. It only took us half an hour. We can do this now. And we did. We did it as per usual with Pandemic, by the skin of our teeth. I think we had 3
One
cards
card
left.
left.
There was 1 card left. That was it.
Do you know what? That exact feeling is why I love Pandemic.
Yeah.
Great game.
I love going, I'm having you this time, and then you screw it up even more, and then it goes horrible, and then there's a third go that comes out going, I can do it this time. Don't go there the first time, because you go there, that'll screw it up. That screwed it up last time. Don't do that again. So you do something else, and you screw up in a different way.
Yeah. It's the drama that comes with Pandemic.
I love it.
Which I think a
love it.
lot of games just no other game seems to come close to that for me.
Oh, you want to play the legacy version? That's like
Oh
drama
no.
maximised.
I've played and completed it in less than a year. Okay, just saying.
So have I. I have played and completed it in 3 weekends, actually, Mr. Summers.
Okay.
Not with you lot, because you were reliable, but with some actual friends that turned up on time. We played 7 games in an afternoon. It was brilliant.
So I'm not. Think about it. I'd be well up for that. A games day where we just get out season 2 or season 0 and just blast through a Pandemic Legacy. That would be a day well spent with more lime and pistachio loaf cake.
If you want another 11-hour day, mate, I've got season 2 unopened, and I would like to play it. I want to play it with someone who's played season 1. So there you go, open invitation. Let's do it.
Oh, that's
You
good.
2 are also invited if you can be asked to turn up.
I like that. might do that, Andy.
I've got no answer for that, Sue.
What do you say to that?
I'm not going to bake a cake every time I come over though. If I'm going to come over every weekend for a month.
Well, you need to come out for an afternoon for like 11 hours. That's
okay,
fine.
that's what. Yeah. do you reckon we could bosh out Pandemic in one 11-hour day?
I reckon we can.
That almost sounds like it has to be done now, doesn't it?
Let's do it.
I reckon it's doable. A normal game of Pandemic should take you 45 minutes to an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you're not having to
there's
clear the
extras.
board away,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can smash through it because if you get pumped like me and Steve did quite a few times, the game doesn't last that long.
Let's assume that we're going to get pumped for at least a quarter of the year. Right? There's a quarter. Like some games are only going to last 15 minutes.
Yeah,
It's
true.
Yeah.
And 5 of those minutes are going to be, what are the new rules this year, Andy?
yeah, that's the thing with the. Anyway, back to Pandemic Iberia. It's Pandemic, but it is a nice little twist. I think there's enough of a twist in it to make it different enough to want to play it.
Yes, and this is the weird thing. One of the reasons I got it out is because I've got to rationalise this board game collection at some point because I've run out of space, and I thought, right, let's play this because I haven't played it in 6 years. I need to get rid of it if I don't like it, and I've looked at it and now gone. Actually, no, that is a really nice remix of Pandemic, isn't it?
It is.
So it's going back on the shelf, isn't it?
Yeah, you see, we've got it, and I've kept it for exactly that reason. And the same with Pandemic Cthulhu. They're different enough that you can justify keeping all 3.
Cthulhu's awesome. I love
Yes.
Pandemic Cthulhu.
Yeah,
See, I've never played. I'm a big fan of them. Like I've got. I don't know if you can see it here, but there's my wooden box. That I went to spend 50 quid on a box to put all of my, and I've got it fully blinged out and upgraded and everything, and I've got all the expansions. I love Pandemic.
it's a great game.
But I've never been convinced. I've never been even tempted to go play any of the spin-offs.
Well, you have to play Cthulhu with us because it is.
Yeah, 'cause
I think it's
you
actually
guys say
really
that,
hard.
but you guys all like H.P. Lovecraft and the Cthulhu mythos, whereas I found his writing incredibly difficult and hard to read, and never
Oh, it
really
is.
got
It's
into
fucking
it.
awful.
Yeah, he's writing shit.
It's terrible.
Don't read it.
I never really got into it, so because I'm not into the theme, the Cthulhu theme, I don't know whether I would want to play a Cthulhu themed board game.
Don't think of it like that because it's Pandemic. It is still boiled down. It's still very not quite abstract, but it's
So
abstracted.
what's the big twist with Cthulhu then? What's the
There are portals, so it generates. So instead of disease cubes, there are cultists.
Yeah.
And if you get too many cultists, obviously the whole world turns to shit. But if you get too many of a bad thing in one place, you get a Shoggoth turning up, and the Shoggoths try to make their way to little portals because there's like 4 special locations on the board, and the Shoggoth will try to make its way to a portal, and if it gets to a portal, bad shit happens. And there are 7, I think it is, elder gods that you can deal out. One of which is Cthulhu, but you might not get him until the end, and he may not even turn up. But if the elder god comes out, you're in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
So instead of the epidemic cards, which slowly build it, you have the elder gods, which adds like restrictions on you each time they come out. But also, there's no coloured cultists, so there's no coloured cube.
Oh, it's
like, you get
just
4 different
cultists.
coloured.
Yes.
It's just
Yeah, yeah.
cultists. So the cultists are the same regardless of where you are, where they come out. It feels Pandemic Iberia feels like a subtle tweak, whereas Pandemic Cthulhu feels like someone took the basic concepts and remixed it into a different game, but still feels like Pandemic without going. It doesn't stray too far away from the basic formula.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you still have the 4 basic colours, which are represented by the 4 cities or towns in the Cthulhu mythos. You've got Arkham, Dunwich, Innsmouth, and the other one I can never remember. Not Kingsbarns. That's a golf. Kingsport. Yes, Kingsbarns is a golf course. But yes, Kingsport. So those 4 are like the blue, yellow, red, and green or black or whatever colour it is.
Bus stops instead of airports.
Yes.
Your bus
It's
stops
really
to get the
clever.
bus to the other town. Yeah,
it's quite a nice twist. It's really good.
Okay.
It's hugely overpriced for what it is, but it is good fun.
Are you going to tell me
it's
this
a nice
is
twist.
it's going to be like 40 odd quid? Is it? Is that
Yes, £47 when Steve and I bought it. And that was
you
about 4 years ago.
having a giraffe? £47 for an
Yeah,
its current RRP is £50.
no.
It is.
It is overpriced.
hugely overpriced. But yeah, you open the box and go, "Oh, is that it?" There must be something. They've not sent us half the stuff. No, it is just horribly overpriced because it's got miniatures rather than cubes, basically. But it is good, very good, and it's also very hard.
All right. Okay. Well, Pandemic, Iberia, Cthulhu, Pandemic. They're all great. Just a great game.
Just Pandemic.
Pandemic. Just go play a Pandemic game. Yeah.
Lee Cox just created a massive cash cow there, hasn't he, really? Because, I mean, on top of that, actually, weirdly, Laura and I went to Nerdy 2 weekends ago, and we ended up playing Forbidden Skies, which is basically... Because you've got Forbidden Island, you've got Forbidden desert, and then you got Forbidden Skies, which is basically Pandemic with sandbags, Pandemic with sand, and Pandemic with wires, which is Forbidden Skies. It's the same idea. Everyone gets 4 actions. You move around the board, you do something. Next player, then you draw some cards to make things bad. Same idea. If you've played Forbidden Island, the broad idea.
Yeah, okay.
But the twist with Forbidden Skies is there's a little rocket ship. You've got this sort of floating platform in the sky, and you're trying to sort of send this rocket ship into space. And on the board are essentially spaces where you're building this sort of extend this metal platform, but there are physical wires that go around. And if the platform gets hit by lightning, if you're standing on one that's connected to a lightning rod by one of these wires, you get struck and you lose a health point. So you can heal yourself and stuff. But you also build this Lego that you build. It's essentially sort of basic circuitry that Sid is going to love. You make these little sort of contact points, these little discs, and depending on the difficulty, you've got to build a certain number of big discs, a certain number of small discs, a couple of lightning rods, and the main sort of launch pad for the rocket. And when you do, you put these little sort of physical cables, these wires, these basically metal rods, between each of these little contacts, because they're all made of metal, and you got to make a little circuit. And when you put the rocket on the launch pad is basically 2 sort of separated pieces of metal, and you make a full circuit with these extra rods. And when you do, the rocket lights up, it goes and takes off. It's great. It's completely gimmicky, but it's quite good twist. Anyway, that's Forbidden Skies.
We started on Pandemic Iberia, right?
Yeah.
We then veered, of course, still in Pandemic Land. Fair play. How the bloody hell did we get to Forbidden Island?
Well, it's because it's the same. It's the same design.
it?
It's MacLeod card. It's the same designer and basically the same mechanics. Everyone gets 4 actions. You draw a card. You put something on the table. You do something. Next player. Something goes bad. Next player. Same idea.
I would have
rinse
answered
and
Sid's
repeat.
question differently. I would have said, Andy started talking.
You are a wanker.
Let's put Andy's power of talking nonsense to good use. And let's answer
It's
questions
called
from the mailbag.
consultancy, Mr. Tudor.
Is that what it is? Isn't it? Let's go into the mailbag and let's start with a question from young Stephen Tudor.
Oh.
Who asks,
Hello, Stephen Tudor.
what's your most controversial gaming opinion?
Are we allowed to say it on here? Because it's controversial. It's going to upset people.
Well,
Go on. Start of the pod.
go on. It's kind of the point.
That's the question.
I came with this question because I did this back to front. I had an answer before a question.
Go on then, start us off. Go on, get yourself
Steve,
into trouble.
Right, okay, I know this is not going to go down well with some listeners, but I have no interest in solo games. Right? I have no interest in playing my board game solo. To me, it's a social adventure. We play it around the table. You look each other in the eyes, you screw them over. And I therefore have no interest in solo rules for games.
Agreed.
And I'm starting to get wound up by my games having a whole bunch of components that I basically bag up and put to the bottom of the box because they're the components for the solo game.
Mm.
And I look for them and go, what? And there's always that point when you're setting up the game and go, what the hell is this bag of cards for? And these tokens for? Oh, they're for the solo variant.
Yeah.
Right. And if the box has got an insert, they go under the insert, never to be seen again.
Yep.
Right? Because I'm never gonna use them. And I'm starting to get annoyed that I'm paying for this extra components and this extra rules development. And why it winds me up a little bit and why I think it's controversial, I'll get to
Really, you're not at the controversial point yet.
Oh, no.
I think when you
Because-
mentioned paying for them, I thought that was the bit where people would just turn the knife.
Well, the reason why this particularly gets my go is because when a new Kickstarter comes out and it's mini focused, there's always this like loud response of why does it have to be miniatures? Why couldn't it be standees? And why can't we have a variation of the game with standees and a variation of the game with the miniatures? The reason is because it actually costs more to produce standees and miniatures. But I want solo versions to be add-ons. I don't want them in my base game.
I think that is perfectly reasonable. I was thinking, I can see where he's going here. I'm going to keep quiet for once in my life. And I entirely agree, Steve, because for the exact same logic, I'm paying for shit I don't want. And if you can throw that argument at mini games or indeed other games that I'm paying for stuff I don't want, like all the extra free, quote, in inverted commas, expansions, right, you can f off with your solo mode. Piss off. We don't want it. No one wants it. Go away and play your solo game or even a video game.
Can I jump in here with my controversial gaming opinion, which is tangentially related to this point?
Okay.
I don't like bling. at all. It
Ooh.
fucks me right off.
Sid, you and I, we've just fallen out. I don't think we can come back from this.
Look, this is why it's tangentially important to what's being talked about here. It's the exact same reason as Steve just said. I want the basics to be right. I don't like gloss. I don't like it in video games. I don't like it in movies and TV shows. I don't like it anywhere. It pisses me off.
Sid's an emulsion man.
No, yeah. I want my basic thing to be right and good as it possibly can be. Do not spend your money on a graphic designer to make it look bloody nice if your game is shit.
That's fair enough. I mean, you want function over form any time. That's okay.
Exactly. And everybody has to work to a budget, and therefore, if you've carved your budget wrong, which some people do, and you're relying on the bling to sell the game, nah. And that's exactly where I was going with your minis thing. Be it the solo rules thing is exactly in that camp, and they're doing it in RPG land like mental, and it f***s me off. Right? I've got books on that shelf over there that are full of solo rules for an RPG. I get people like it. I understand it. Fine, but it's taken away from that thing. I don't like it. I'll go back in my box in my troll house.
See, this is interesting because I love my bling. I would like to be able to buy games without all of the bling, because I quite like to bling my games up, and I think sometimes the bling that I don't necessarily pay for all of it all of the time. If that would make sense.
You probably want what some, but not all, Kickstarter or other crowdfunding platforms do is you'll have the base game as Sid wants, and then you'll have bling add-ons. That's the best way of doing it, because that way you're going in with your eyes open. You can pay for your metal coins if you want them, etc., etc. That's the way to do it.
That's the way I like it. Yeah.
In the olden days, I'd agree with you. But every Kickstarter game found coming out now has got a pre-planned route for that bullshit to be available. Therefore, it's costed into the budget. Therefore, less money is going into the base game generation. It is all a massive con, and I'm really wound up now. I hate you all.
And how many Kickstarters have you backed, Sid?
None, because of this reason. Because it annoys me. No, I do back Kickstarters, but not for board games. But it's prevalent across the industry in various formats. Because the RPGs are doing it as well, and that's where I see it predominantly.
Give me the basics, and if I want the extras, have the extras available, but I want to be able to have them as an option, as an extra, and I don't mind paying extra for my extra stuff. But yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from. It's really because, but it's I quite like. I don't mind solo rules. I do play the occasional game solo, and that works for me. I'm okay with that. But I see where you're coming from. I'm trying to think. I don't really have any major controversial opinions. I don't think
you like solo player games. That's your.
Well, no, I don't like them. It's just because
I don't think that's not controversial, though, is it? The way the industry seems to be at the moment is that solo games are one of the way forward.
As an adjunct to the I don't like solo rules bit from Mr. Tudor, along the same lines as. The two of them that have already spoken, is the influence that sleevers have on the inserts in a lot of Kickstarter's games. They can get in the fucking bin, right? You want to sleeve your game? That's up to you. That's fine. But don't demand someone accommodates your faffiness by modifying the base product and accommodating that horse shit at the detriment to the rest of us. No. Cough.
Did you just call my sleeves horseshit?
No, I said you can sleeve your game as much as you want. That's fine. But don't expect the base box to accommodate your sleeving fanaticism by default.
Having said, I saw there was a game, it was Legendary Creatures from Pencil First years ago that did this. You know, they made the slots big enough for sleeved cards. But what they did when they sent out the game, they sent out a little slither, like a little piece of foam. So if you didn't sleeve your games, you just put that into the insert and it would take up the padding space. So then your normal unsleeved cards would fit there. I thought that was quite clever.
I'd love to know the figures on these things. Like, I'd love to know how many percentage of gamers are actually, card condomers, and how many.
Don't call us that, Steve. We don't like that.
And how many players are solo gamers?
Game
I'd love to know how
safety,
many actually.
Look, I sleeve games that I'm likely to play in a pub.
Oh, makes sense.
If I know this game is only ever going to go on a table which is safe, then that's fine. But if I might take it to the pub, it gets sleeved.
I can understand why people do it, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've sleeved a few of my games, especially specifically card games, because the cards get a lot of wear, they're going to get, battered up. I understand why. But it's the games that aren't specifically card games, where people expect accommodation for the sleeves.
Yeah.
And that's nonsense, because you're essentially you're forcing the producer to modify their product to accommodate your modification. You're essentially modifying the product by putting them in sleeves, and you're expecting somebody to accommodate that. It's like saying to BMW, I want you to modify, to accommodate, my stupid 77-inch rims and crappy spoiler at the back by default. You're going to get told to sling your hook, and rightly so.
See this Mr. Tudor guy that sent this in?
Yeah.
Can we ban that guy? Because all he's done is boil our piss collectively, one way or another.
Said that, why don't you pick a question from our list that's going to calm you down? So it's going to something that has the effect of a nice cup of chamomile tea.
Chamomile's disgusting. I don't know why
Chamomile is hyphen. Why you brought chamomile tea up? Good cup of proper breakfast tea. A Sam would be adequate right now. That might bring me down.
But
maybe a
Yorkshire
bourbon
Gold,
biscuit
that's
or a
what you
Jaffa
want.
cake as well. Ooh, that would work.
Or a nice
right.
calming stout. And a pipe.
Hello. I'm going to stay on target. I'm going to pick a question. Hang on, what have we got here? Do you know what? The next question on the list, I really like it because I don't think I know the answer to this, and I'd love to know. So, Sasha asks, where were RPGs historically derived from? In other words, how did they first start?
Man looks up something on the internet, clearly there.
Seriously, I think you've asked a question there that none of us know the answer to.
Oh, no, I know the basics.
Do you?
All right, okay.
Educate us, Mr. Tudor.
I don't know the exact dates, so I was just double checking something. So, D&D is, I think, the first. Although Traveller gets a bit funny with the dates of Traveller. So once I want to double check. So D&D started as a miniatures game, and originally it was a medieval miniatures game which they're playing Siege in a Castle. So think Warhammer, that kind of thing. Your original old world Warhammer, and they started to develop rules for going into the dungeons.
Okay.
So rather than just having people fight over the battlements, they started to have things with sappers burrowing under the castle walls and attacking via the dungeon. And I'm not 100% sure of dates of things and the exact names, but I believe these rules were called chainmail.
Oh.
Okay.
And chainmail was the miniatures rules, which then got more granular and became Dungeons and Dragons. So I think chainmail may have been Gary Gygax and the other chap, but basically those rules became chainmail. Started off as chainmail and became D&D. Now, the one that gets me, that always confuses me, because chainmail came out in 1971, I believe.
D&D came out in 77?
77, which bizarrely is the same year as Traveller, which is the sci-fi RPG. So I'm always a bit confused here as to where did someone play chainmail and then came up with Traveller, or did Traveller come? Did these two products come out completely parallel development? And I don't know the history of Traveller, so I couldn't comment on that. But I know that's the history of D&D, and it's often cited as the history of RPGs. It started off as a miniature war game and basically just got more granular and granular and granular. And even then, when first edition D&D, people didn't role play. I mean, you just basically just a dungeon crawl. It was basically just a fancy board game with a judge, and role playing developed more and more and more after that.
I'm playing a character.
So,
I want my character to have a bit of nous about them, that kind of thing. Yeah, sure. Interesting.
Well,
there you go. We've learned something. Thank you, Sasha, and thank you, Steve.
You laughed at me for the question, but the gaffer sat there with all the knowledge.
That's why he's the gaffer. That's why he's the
gaffer.
We just laugh at you, Sid. It's got nothing to do with your question.
Look, you can't bully the YTS kid. That's not allowed
Yes,
anymore.
we can. That's what the YTS kid's for. That's why you get sent for a can of tartan paint and a long stand. It's healthy. It puts hairs on your chest. Washes the green from behind your ears. Anyway, next question. Craig Turner. Do you prefer to play one long game or a few shorter ones? Well, Rory and I prefer to play quite a few long games.
That's not an option. You can't pick that one.
Shut up. I'm thinking outside the box.
Get back in the box. That's not the question.
No,
It depends on the day. Depends on the group.
It does. It's very true, actually.
no.
Yeah.
See, I think I would always like to play a longer game. I think I'm at a point now in my tabletop journey where I want a good meal. I don't want a snack. I don't just want a sandwich and crisps. I want to sit down for a roast dinner with all the trimmings.
It's an event. I look at it as an event. I want to get my teeth into it and sit down and play something that is going to break my brains.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know what? I agree with you, actually. I was about to say, no, it's a mixture, but no, I agree. Yeah, you want something you can get your teeth into.
No, if I'm only playing games once a week, if my time, is valuable, actually I want to sit down. I want a good game or something.
Yep.
I
have to admit, I get deflated at a lot of my gaming nights when somebody sits down and, right, let's play this game. How long is it going to take? Half an hour. Oh, really?
Yeah. I've noticed I'm the same. It's like when Andy and I we played one really long game, then we had a couple of palate cleansers. We played two short games after lunch, and then went back into a long game because like the brain burn from Autobahn, we needed a reset. But yeah, we played two long games, and they were the most satisfying parts of the day.
Definitely, yes. They're most memorable, certainly.
Yeah.
Both enjoyed it. There was a lot more banter in a lot of them. You can get into the game, you can settle into it, get comfortable.
Yeah.
And then you're part of the game. It's almost like an RPG. You get used to your character. There's a bit of banter thrown across the table, and you can get to the point where, yep, I've screwed up, but there's maybe time to root. No, I can't recover. It's never mind. I'll always win again.
I'll have you know, I won Mansterlands. Don't
You
credit
did win
Alora with
Mansterlands.
that. Thank you very much.
No, you did. Only because my last round went to absolute dog shit. But that's another story.
I was winning anyway. Anyway,
before this devolves into a full argument, let's draw this to a close for the day, shall we? We did briefly mention, actually, before I go into our roundup, we will be doing our UK Games Expo podcast soon. So that's our preview. So here's a question for you, dear listeners. What game are you looking forward to seeing at the UK Games Expo? We'd like to hear what has tickled your fancy that you know is coming or you think is coming, because we always like to hear and get excited about games for the Expo, and it's not very far away.
45 days. Not that
And
I've got a
counting.
counter.
And just to get everyone really excited, we, all four of us, hopefully, will be present and doing a live podcast for your delectation.
We will indeed. Exact details to be confirmed.
The day before, when we decide on what we're actually doing.
Oh, no. I mean, the details like time and place.
Oh, right,
I mean, what
okay,
we're actually doing. Yeah, I'm not deciding
hope
that
the
until
place
5
is
minutes before we
picked.
talk.
Yeah, I hope the place is picked.
It'll be at the
it's gonna be
expo.
expos.
Yeah, there you go.
We're
At
going to
the
do it at the
expo.
pub round the corner.
Pinch me nose. I seen time and exact room, you plonkers. Anyway, it's penciled in at the moment for Saturday morning. That's all I know. I don't know anything.
And
I'm waiting for confirmation.
That's only because I was asked, was it with you or one of us was asked when we want to do it? And I said, yeah, Saturday morning's probably best because we'll be too tired on Sunday. And too tired on Saturday afternoon because we're old.
Still not old.
Well, yeah, me and you'll be on about 60 coffees by that point, Andy. We'll be able to see through time.
That's
I'll
true.
be chewing the beans by lunchtime.
That's it. I'll be able to smell colours.
Anyway, that's a preview of something to come in a few weeks. Until then, thank you very much for listening. We have been Polyhead Drunk Collider. Please give us a review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, and give us a like on Facebook, all that good stuff, because that helps algorithms, apparently. You can find us all over the internet. We are on Facebook. We occasionally look on Twitter, and we're on Board Game Geek Guild 2726. Rory is actually doing loads of work on Instagram at the moment. So there's loads of pictures of the games we've been playing. So if we played a game, there's generally a photograph of it on Insta. And until next time, happy gaming.
Ta-ra.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Right. I'm gonna press stop on this circus now.